Good morning, and today is a lovely Tuesday. Of course, as usual, it plans to be an exciting Tuesday here on New Day. Of course, as we always try to do for you, to get you ready and out of your bed, ready for work. Right from now till 9 a.m., we bring you the juiciest of news and information. And of course, news review will be right here. We'll also give you headlines on what has been on the news since yesterday and over the weekend, if we have that. But certainly, I'm sure you are not amused by some things that have been happening in Ghana over the past few days. But what are you doing to change or brighten the corner where you find yourself? But gradually, we are also rolling into December, and I wish you a Merry Christmas in advance. I don't know if it's too, advanced, but certainly you should be getting in the mood because Christ, your Savior, died for you to give you salvation in Christmas. Anyway, good morning, guys.
Good morning.
How are we doing?
Well, it's not bad to wish a Merry Christmas, and I'm told Christmas actually starts on the 15th of November. So
oh, does it?
Really?
Okay, so we're actually belated
yes,
then.
It's not too bad to wish someone a
where?
Merry Christmas. It's November 15th.
Maybe Mary had started the journey
That's
to
the real journey
yeah.
to Christmas. That's when it
Maybe.
starts.
Right.
And I'm told it also ends in 15th January. So,
Nice.
so it's cool to wish someone a Merry Christmas. But hey, a lot of activities are lined up for this morning. And it includes the newspapers as usual. We'll be taking a look at what's making all the news. Of course, we'll get into the day and get you to be part of productive society by getting you to go to work. And we'll tell you of what's happening by way of news. Solis has all the news, but Johnny has just joined
Good
us.
morning, guys. I'm also excited.
Yeah.
Yesterday, an unfortunate incident happened around my area, and the armed robbers, actually picked pellets of pistol and AK-47. Yeah, so the story is on 3news.com. But most of the people around the area perhaps mistook the gunshots for knockouts that the kids have started, playing already, or
Really?
yes, firecrackers. And I know that in 1996 there was a ban like that.
Yes.
Plus, even to wear military regalia, or any artifact at all of military or security, it was banned. What has happened to the ban? I know that the ban is still in force.
It is.
And you still have people go through the ports and import some of these things and bring it. Customs officers or GRA will clear it. Immigration will let it come through, and then it will get into.
There'll probably be a sweep at some point getting towards Christmas.
That's
what usually happens.
We are told
after
that
it's already in the system, and then there's a sweep.
We are
and
told
it's
that the sweep
confiscated.
usually happens for those who do not want to pay. So you have to pay and then get. But you see, 1996 by 2016. By 2006, it was 10. 2016, 20 years. So 21 years after the ban, and we still have it. Christmas on Christmas. This started around October. And I was just asking about it last Sunday because I heard it and it didn't sound so well. I've lived in Barrack, so I know, the sound of a gun. Right. And I heard one that was so identical with, so I came out and I thought it was a gunfire. And I asked the woman, she said, oh, it can be a knockout. I said, okay.
Oh, okay.
Then, so when I heard it yesterday, I thought it was a regular. Then I heard another. It was, so then I got out and, the dude was shot 3 times in his foot. 3 times. And then he was shot because he was still holding on to his bag. So 3 times and then, but that's how it is, unfortunately.
Yeah. Let's see how the police will deal with the issue. But
well, yesterday, I must say that yesterday when we called the police, we had the first team that came. I didn't see them. They just came, they patrolled the area a little and they left. So I had to place another call for the team to come and check the pellets of, the shells of bullets and all. Because, what kind of intelligence gathering is that? You come, people are gathered at the crime scene, you just drive through and then you go away. It doesn't.
But certainly, so does he have more on the news? Because the police is in the news for many other reasons.
I saw the pictures.
And we will be finding out.
I can't even watch the video because it's very appalling.
I'm told that there are 2 things that a policeman is taught, is to judge somebody and to slap.
No, I hope that
well,
isn't the truth.
Yeah, we don't think that's true. I think they do much more. But we'll be finding out more details from security, of course, politics, business, and health. Good morning, I am Solace Rose Corti. This is Morning News on TV3, and to our first story. A video has emerged of the Asokwa police brutalizing Katanga Hall students of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology after a Love FM old school reunion on Saturday. Now, police in the video touched and slapped the students at the Tech Junction in Kumasi after they allegedly clashed with Unity Hall students. Now, the police fired live ammunition before arresting them.
Charged, weapons cocked, the police had a simple mission: torture, brutalize, and arrest these students of KNUST after an old school reunion held in Kumasi. Helpless, these students looked, but the police will take no plea from them and onlookers. Slapped, dragged, and put in a police van. Information gathered by TV3 investigations indicate these students from Unity Hall clashed with their counterparts from Katanga after they had gone to perform at the old school reunion. 8 students were earlier arrested by the police and subsequently bailed.
We as an institution also are doing our own thing. We've had some names, and we are kind of profiling them, trying to find out who they are and what possibly they've done in the past, for us to take a very stringent measure or decision on them.
Details are imagined that the police had brutalized these students before reporting to their superiors of an arrest. Komla Kluche, TV3 News, Accra.
Meanwhile, the Ashanti Regional Police has launched investigations into circumstances that led to the police maltreating the students. Now, Deputy Public Relations Officer of the Ashanti Regional Police, Chief Inspector Godwin Ahianyo, spoke with Abu Samoni on News 360 and assured personnel who are found guilty will be dealt with.
When the incident happened and the men were sent to the scene, they came back and reported that they made arrest of 8 persons, whom we cautioned and then granted bail to report this morning. They were released to the security coordinator of the university. Then later, the command intercepted the video footage of police brutalities of these students. Just when police got wind of this video footage, the command then decided to take a serious view of these police brutalities and investigate it. As we speak, the command has come out with a statement asking the public to be rest assured that no personnel will be shielded. Meanwhile, the Police Intelligence and Professional Standard Department of the command has also been tasked to investigate the unprofessional conduct of our men. So I would say we don't know what actually triggered the action or the inaction of our men, and therefore an investigation has already started or begun into their action.
So what kind of report have the police made to their bosses? I mean, I don't know if charges have been preferred against the boys right now.
Yes, we
they have been arrested.
Actually charged them for rerouting and causing damage to some vehicles. You know, when the program was ongoing, we understand there was a clash between students from the Katanga Hall, that is the University Hall, and that of the Unity Hall. So when our men were asked to proceed there to avert any further clashes, they came back with a report that they made 8 arrests, and the students were cautioned and released on same day. For us to just intercept this video footage of their unfortunate brutalities of these 8 students.
Now to some other stories. Traders crossing the Makango-Yeji River in the East Gonja district of the Northern region are losing their produce as they wait for their turn to board the only ferry stationed at the bank of the Volta Lake in the Northern region. Meanwhile, a fleet of vehicles continue to pile up at the riverbank, also in an attempt to cross the lake. Of yam and other foodstuff have begun to rot. About 74 cargo trucks carrying yams and other cereal crops have been kept for over 5 days. This has caused heavy vehicular and human traffic. The platoon travels 3 times a day and carries about 6 to 7 of the cargo trucks, depending on their weight. The traders want the Highway Authority and the Transport Ministry to immediately make provisions for another ferry to complement the existing one.
There's no pontoon that is ready to transport our goods. All our yams are rotten. The road is also in a bad shape. They say there are armed robbers on the Eastern Corridor Road, so we returned. Government should intervene to provide an additional ferry.
They should have claimed this thing before they have closed their pen to pay, but they didn't do that. People are suffering here. Their business has collapsed.
The Roads and Highway Ministry on November 21, 2017, ordered for the immediate closure of the Yape and Buipe bridges on the Tamale-Kumasi Highway for maintenance work. The bridges constructed about 5 decades ago, according to engineers, could collapse any time if not maintained. Now, the Teachers and Education Workers Union has asked government to legislate violence against women through their conditions of service. The union is of the view this will reduce the harassment and verbal abuse meted out to women at the workplaces.
General Secretary of the Union made observation to commemorate World Day of Violence Against Women. The event, which was on November 25, was to unearth the difficulties women go through at workplaces. According to Tewu, most women are verbally abused and sometimes sexually assaulted at the workplaces. Others are physically attacked and cannot complain due to the existence of inadequate jobs. Of major concern to Tewu is the lack of adequate policies to uphold and protect the rights of women. The union has therefore implored government to legislate violence against women through their conditions of service.
We have a conditions of service which is a collective agreement between the employer and employee. And to that extent, we as a national union, we have proposed in some of the conditions of service clauses, articles that clearly spell out that we detest violence of any forms against women at the workplace and equally at the home.
The General Secretary, Augustine Cabo, said this will reduce attacks on women and protect their rights.
We as Teachers and Educational Workers Union, we stand in solidarity with the world in celebrating women and in speaking against all forms of violence, abuse, harassment against women in the country and globally.
Away from that, 78 construction workers nearly assaulted an Ivorian Portuguese interpreter in the TUC building, accusing him of conniving with their employer to escape out of the country with their redundancy package. The angry workers were of the view the interpreter facilitated the acquisition of a passport and other relevant documents which were seized by the East Legon police station.
78 workers were recruited by CDPM, which was a company owned by the Portuguese employer. The company was tasked to embark on construction works at the Kotoko International Airport. It received the contract from MSF, which is also another construction company. After some time, CDPM lost the contract and workers were laid off. For 5 months, the workers have demanded their redundancy package, but have not received it. Upon their checks, they realized the employer has left the country, posing a challenge to the payment of the amount. However, the mother construction company, which is MSF, has to pay an amount of 117,000 cedis to CDPM. But the amount, according to the human resource manager of MSF, cannot pay off the redundancy package of the workers. A total sum of 203,000 cedis is to be used to pay the workers.
In July, there was an outstanding money that we ought to pay to CDPM. You paid. And we insisted that, look, find a way to pay this money to your workers. The money went to the man, and that was the end. Derry should talk to his boss. If his boss will agree for us to pay the compensation that has been worked out based on the collective agreement, they're going to do that.
Currently, the employer cannot be traced, while an interpreter to the employer has also refused to link up with him. This angered the workers who threatened to assault him. The Mother Union of the Workers, Construction and Building Materials Workers Union, pleaded with the workers for additional 2 weeks to address the problem.
This matter is an industrial matter. I'm telling them that we have to give him the benefit of the doubt by giving him 2 days. 2 days, he should reason up with the director, give us the information or the feedback, and then we see the way forward.
But the workers appeared dissatisfied.
At the first time, we corrected the director's passport and give it to airport police commander over there. And later, he released the passport to the director and he ran away. That's why we are afraid that this man also can run away.
It's too difficult because it is simple at this time to call the boss to communicate so that we get our money. But he's making as if they're refusing to call the boss.
The interpreter, who declined to speak on camera, assured to get the consent of Portuguese employer before monies are released to pay their packages.
Now, away from that, President Akufo-Addo has charged newly sworn-in board members of the Public Utilities and Regulatory Commission (PURC) to sanction any utility company which fails to live up to expectations. At the swearing-in ceremony at the Flagstaff House, the president urged the board to protect the interest of the consumer and deliver quality service.
The 9-member board of the Public Utilities and Regulatory Commission is made up of representatives of the Trades Union Congress, Association of Ghana Industries, Consumer Protection Agency, and nominees of the President. President Akufo-Addo charged them to deliver efficient and cost-effective service to the public.
One of the most notable functions, as seen by most Ghanaians, to be effectively discharged by the PURC, has to do with the review of utility tariffs, most often than not, in an upward manner. It would appear that the other functions, primarily to do with the protection of the interests of the consumer and the delivery of quality service by utility providers, have been largely shirked by the PURC. This perception can no longer be allowed to fester. It must change. The Ghanaian people demand that you protect their interests as well. I urge you to ensure that where a public utility provider fails to meet any required standard of performance, it is appropriately and duly sanctioned.
Chairman of the board, Michael Opam, promised to deliver.
We would uphold the key pillar of the Commission, which is the rather onerous task of balancing the interests of investors and consumers in the electricity and natural gas as well as water sectors. Some areas of focus will be the lingering energy sector debt and consumers' demand for quality of service from utility service providers.
Now back to education. Our kids are not reading and teachers do not seem to care. Now these are the words of renowned educationist Professor Jovis Anamwa Mensah. The executive chair of the Teacher Education in Sub-Saharan Africa believes Ghana's current education system has failed to serve the best interest of children.
By changes in government and socio-economic status of countries the world over, and Ghana is no exception. In 2002, the Kufuor government instituted a 20-man presidential committee to review the educational system in the country. The goal of the committee was to come out with recommendations to align Ghana's educational system with the changing needs of society. 15 years down the line, the chair of the committee believes Ghana's education system is not the best.
Ghana's education should be one of the best. It used to be in Africa, but should be one of the best in the world. Our kids cannot read. And Teachers don't seem to care. Nobody seems to care. There should be a time on the timetable that they should go. This is library period. Somebody there with literacy to help them.
According to Professor Jofus Anamwa Mensah, a lack of monitoring and supervisory system has contributed to the falling standards in education.
Whenever there is weak management and supervision, then the child's faith is in danger. So it is important that we have a management system put in place that will ensure supervision, that will ensure that there is monitoring by even external agencies. So the establishment of the National Inspectorate Board is very critical.
He called for proper incentives and remuneration of teachers in local communities and a standard guide to teaching and learning. The chairman of the Ghana Education Service Council, Michael Insoa, believes the passage of a national policy on education would limit political interference in education.
The whole world has agreed that by 2030, every nation should give the minimum level of education should be secondary. And if, having launched this one, people have already started, they are not, it means Ghana is known for moving forwards and backwards, which is not good for this nation.
The lecture was a third in a series of public lectures organized by Media General.
Moving on, the Africa Court on Human and People's Rights in Arusha has granted provisional measures ordering Ghana to stay the attachment of Alfred Woyomi's assets until it decides the merit of the application before it. The court further ordered Ghana to report back measures it has taken to implement the injunctive interim measure. The court also unanimously stayed the attachment of the applicant's property and to take all appropriate measures to maintain the status quo. It again ordered the respondent to report to the court within 15 days from the date of receipt on the measures taken to implement this order. Well, that's how we wrap up morning news here on TV3 with me, Solis Rose Corte. New Day returns shortly after this.
So now it's time for news headlines. Let's start off with Daily Heritage, which says BOG cuts policy rate to 20%, and there's an insert of Dr. Ernest Addison. He's the governor of Bank of Ghana. Also, Goma Fesa chief appeals to government to stop land guards from selling our lands to buy cars. And then finally, Lankwantanan Assembly comes under fire as the court orders it to remove unauthorized structures in 3 months. Well. Of course, if you put structures in unauthorized places, you'll be asked to remove it. I don't know what has come of the buffer zones we kept talking about around the Wager area, many other places where people build in areas that are not designated for construction of homes. And this, I mean, this particular story came because the fire service identify those structures are not being placed in the right place, and so it causes harm to everybody. But does it have to come to that point where every day we come and say this structure, or let's say personal people ask for structures to be removed because they think it's obscuring or it's not situated properly? What then is lands and is it town and country planning doing about it? And what then is are the assemblies doing about it actively? Because the assemblies employ so many people. And so I think it shouldn't be me fighting Bright or Johnny because they built in that area. But it should be the assembly against an individual who has not placed his home in the right place. But certainly
there's one situation at Kaswa where the high tension has been mounted. I've been talking about it with Kamla Kluchen. And you find people are built around the high tension, the pylons. So then you're wondering, okay, whether NADMO has not seen it, whether the local authority has not seen it, and what we are waiting for. That's it. There's another one at the Latebiokoshi area, the cluster of schools there at Paipena. And I told you about it, where, I mean, again, good morning to you, Samuel Bracco. He's the metro boss there. He told me of radio last Friday that they will clear all the people. As of yesterday, only 3 of all the containers. I'll put the video on TV so you can check it out. So, and the containers are on the pavements where the children from school will have to use. So now the children are forced to use the streets.
Johnny, that is a perfect situation you just raised, because it won't only be in that area. So many of our streets, I don't know whether government ever considered the pavement, because what you do when you don't have pavements or when people encroach on the pavements is you put the pedestrian at risk. I've seen, if you know the Achimota Road very well, so right after the hospital junction, turning towards the golf course curve or Kissiman as it is, the roads are narrow, the roads are encroached by, Trotros park right in the middle of the road, and so pedestrians, pregnant women usually have to go to some laboratories outside, and you see them having to walk almost on the road because there's no pavement for you to walk, and you're sharing the road with a car. And I don't know whether when government sees this, they are moved to do something about it, because if it was your child on that street, I'm sure you'd be wondering what, could the risk that child poses. So we have to talk about this over and over again.
The whole point is not just about, traders, on the pavements or cars in the middle of the road. If you get to the rich areas like Ridge and Mosu and all of that, you will find that the folks some owners of homes have actually created lawns. So they have taken over the pavement and they have created mini gardens.
And you can't walk on it.
You can't walk on the mini garden anyway. So they have created it, or some have cemented it and they have barricaded it. But it's supposed to be a pavement for all of us to use. So if you are taking it, where do you expect us to go? And you have city authorities or assemblies go around, give them property rate to pay, and nobody mentions it. We have institutionalized all the errors in this country, and we are flowing along with it. How can you have containers, 40 foot, 20 foot, all of that, on a pavement like that, a whole stretch, and then we say it's for beautification? When I got deeper into it, I realized there was a political twist. So it's been there for more than 4 or 5 years. The containers at Latebiokoshi. Now, the politics is that, if we clear them, we will lose the election. So the former Metro chief didn't do it. This man comes, he wants to do it, and people are already stepping on his leg that if you do it, it will affect our political fortunes. Are we crazy or something?
We certainly must be.
Johnny, I'm happy that the order is from a court to remove it. I am happy that at least people are beginning to realize that there are certain things we don't need to talk too much about it. Let's get it to the court to deal with it. Let us hope that the Assembly will indeed listen to the court. There are instances where state institutions have simply failed to obey the orders of the court. I mean, the Indian businessman's case is a classic example where the Immigration Service has been asked several times by the court to restore a work permit, and yet it doesn't happen. I mean, nobody. So a court has issued an order. Let us pray that the Lankwantana Madina Assembly will listen and work as a court has ordered.
You know the funny thing, the Lankwantana Madina Assembly were, I think they were #1 in the last year's district league table. This year they were #2 because Tema took over. And I think it's because of some of these things. It's because of some of these things. When you have people take the law into their own hands. I mean, and it's all over, not just in Accra, it's in Kumasi, it's in Chakrade, it's in Cape Coast, everywhere. People are just putting up structures, and sometimes it's government land. It's been indicated, do not trespass. And you still have people. Look, go to the Kwame Nkrumah Circle. Go to where the rail line is. When the train skidded off its tracks, we had the boss of the Ghana Railway Corporation come and say, never again, we'll see, blah, 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 blah. How many months? Maybe 2 months after that incident, go to Kwame Nkrumah Circle. The tracks are there. It used to be a buffer zone of 100 meters. Then it was reduced to 50 meters.
Now 0.
Now it's actually 0.
Yeah.
The homes of people are right by the track. They are right there. We are waiting for another train to go off, and then we will come and complain. What is wrong with us? What hit us? A bicycle? A truck.
A moving truck.
A train. What?
Well, let's do a last newspaper before we head off. It says, on Today newspaper, extortion galore. Drivers charge 100 to 200 cedis at Buipe and Yape bridges. Also, don't legalize homosexuality. That's coming from the Gay Council to the government. And then finally, MTTD boss says, no bizarre accidents again. But I thought the Buipe Yape bridges have been closed for reconstruction. So it comes to me as, very worrying that the very people who are there to protect it so people don't use it are extorting the drivers and charging these amounts only to allow them to pass. What is wrong with, if you are put there to protect something, why then do you breach the rules and go against it yourself and extort?
I've always raised a question about this Buipe thing. I've said that, look, the Eastern Corridor Road that goes through the Volta region all the way to the north is perhaps the easiest that you could use, and it's a shorter distance to travel. Now that road is terrible. The regular one that has to use the Buipe and Yape bridge is what everybody else uses. With the closure of that one, you'd have to go reroute through another place, which will add maybe like 2 or 3 more hours to your journey. So how much will the drivers have to add on to the fare to be able to cover for it? Are the passengers willing to pay? If they are not, some of these things will happen because we close the thing and we don't create the alternatives for people to use. So we are not thinking right. We are not thinking right.
Johnny, the Highway Authority seemed to suggest that it is the irresponsibility of drivers there that is causing this confusion because they were asked to do certain things and they were simply not doing it. For instance, the bridge could have been used all right, according to the Ghana Highway Authority, if drivers had stuck to the allowed axle weight. So, for instance, they are suggesting that if you can reduce the load in your vehicle to about 20 tons, that's, if I'm not too sure if the tons is correct, but it says about 20 something, then you can still use the road because it will have no impact. But these trucks get there and they are more than the 20 axle load weight that can be allowed to use the road. Now, based on that, you would have to hold on and queue. And once you're queuing, then these persons who are supposed to check drivers from using the road will find a way out. But, well, if the highway says that the drivers are to blame, really, were they made to know that indeed this 20 axle weight is what they should carry for the meantime that the bridge is under construction? I think that sometimes we wait for these things to happen and then we find ways.
Senior, right? You know why I would laugh at what the Highway Authority says? Because they know, or they knew right from the get-go, that that stretch of road, the bridge, per its construction and all the dynamics, can take only 20 axle weight.
Because it's become weak.
Exactly. But previously, so the drivers are used to overloading and overpacking their vehicles beyond it. Every vehicle has weight, and the weight demands that you put a certain amount of mass in it if you have to travel with it. So they have allowed the wrong to go on for a long time. The drivers simply can't come to terms with it, and now they're turning around to blame the drivers. Is that it? Is that what they're trying to do?
Wow.
It's a shame. Anyway, so I told you about the robbery attack yesterday, and this is it. Somebody, the earlier pictures that I got were not so clear, but this is it. That's bullet hit the gentleman. In fact, the gentlemen were sitting right at the junction when the guy started, they just opened fire, and they had actually tailed the man, Samuel Aitiokan, home. He operates a forex bureau, and these are the bullets. Some of them, what was left, there's actually a live AK-47 bullet right in there, and you can tell the crowd that came out yesterday when I got there was huge. They were scared and petrified. I'm still
wondering why people are carrying huge sums of money home in this era. In the past, when banks used to close at 1 p.m., we could have excuses, but today, I know some banks will close as late as 5 o'clock in the evening. These days you can even find some banks working on Sundays. So I'm wondering why
it
people
happened.
will want to carry, because you see, these things, when you see them, it tells you that there are some inside trading.
Yeah.
I mean, how could armed robbers have known that, the man had money on him? Okay, and they tailed him all the way home. So I guess that people should begin to once again think about it. Carrying huge sums of money on you home. The banks are there, 5 o'clock. I guess whatever business you engaged in, you can get to the banks before they shut their doors at 5 o'clock. And I am sure that if you get to a bank by 5:30, and the bank manager is aware you are carrying money, I guess they open the door for you.
Of course, I mean, if you have a special arranger,
plus, you
need to have a special arranger. I mean,
it's
once they know you are holding money,
do, but if you run a forex bureau, if you've worked hand in hand with someone who runs one, you understand that shops open early. People are going to come to you, and the banks open later than they actually want to open their forex bureau. And so, even as much as they'll put a big chunk of their money in the bank, they'll still have some amount on them to be able to start work with until the next day when the banks open.
I am thinking that this perhaps looks more like an inside job, because the narrative I had from the boys who were at the junction was that the 4 guys came waiting. They actually waited for the man. Yes, for a whole hour or so with their motorbikes. They were waiting, and they started acting as if they had come into the area. And then when the man came, they had. But finally, this is something that perhaps we should look at. The Director in Charge of Education and Research at the Motor and Traffic and Transport Department of the MTT of the Ghana Police, DSP Alexander Obing, has vowed to ensure that motorists obey road regulations to the latter. So this happened along the Pram stretch, and 2 people died instantly. It is just about the same situation we have on the Bree Mountain. And more than 2 years, the mountain has just been, the rocks have just been cordoned off with some net, and then it's been left. Nobody is saying anything about it. And yet every Saturday, Sunday, you have people going there, scores of citizens, hundreds, go there, and they jog along those same lines. And you can actually see the rocks, the broken rocks hanging.
But Johnny, this one is a construction company's rock that is supposed to, I guess, it's acting as a crane.
Right.
And it came down.
It did. It came down.
Okay.
But
so someone must be held responsible.
Someone must be held responsible. And in holding somebody responsible, I'm trying to connect it to the briefing, because we're told that the thing is coming off, and that nobody should use that stretch of the road. That was the caveat. People still jog there. We see them. We watch. Nobody has said nobody should exercise. But to the extent that we don't know, what the state of, because nobody has said anything about it. The only thing we knew was that they just went to put the mesh on the rock and they left it. But if that rock decides to fall off, won't the mesh come off? I'm just asking. I'm just thinking. Anyway, let's rant. So the issues about gayism and lesbianism was up there again. The president spoke to Al Jazeera. We have heard the reviews. What do the people out there on the streets say? George Quayle has been hanging out with them. Check him out.
Why is homosexuality still illegal in your country?
These the social, cultural issues, if you like. I don't believe that in Ghana so far a sufficiently strong coalition has emerged, which is having that impact on public opinion that will say, change it. Let's then have a new paradigm in Ghana.
Is that something you would get behind?
I think that it is something that is bound to happen.
Today on Daily Rants, we are talking homosexuality, and the president has come under intense criticism following his interview at Al Jazeera. A cross-section of people think he wasn't really clear on his stance, and that what he meant would really pave way for the act to continue. Christian Council has also come out to say no amount of pressure will let them accept that act in the country. What do you think about homosexuality? Welcome to Daily Rants.
Gay in Ghana here, it will never happen. It won't happen because gay one is a threat to the nation. Because the religious body in the country are growing wider anytime. I don't think people in Ghana will allow this gay should pass any law concerning this gay. So they shouldn't attempt even they shouldn't attempt to try, because what they are saying about human rights, it's not our culture. How can it come and agree on it? Yeah, though the president should come clear, as the other his predecessor say no. He should come out and say no, even though I know he will not agree. But he should come out and let us know that no is no.
Look, the president must apologize to Ghanaians on what he said on Al Jazeera. Please, I'm pleading, I'm with the minority. He should try and apologize, because what he said is totally against we Ghanaians. Because we are not ready for that. We are not going to give them that chance. We are not going to set that that stage for them, so that in future it will abort. No. I think the president have to come out. It must come clear, please.
Okay, what do you think?
What I heard from the president, I don't see it to be something like it's giving encourage to them, but it is maybe they don't understand him clearly. That is why they are coming out. But you see, like if he said no directly, they may maybe think it's against them. I'm coming, excuse me. The case is that he said they are minority.
Please, no is no.
They are not. No. They are not many. You understand? They are not many. And based on, you see, when somebody is talking, you know, our president is a lawyer. He knows about human rights. He's also a human right. And as I'm sitting here, I'm the president of the Concerned Nima Youth Association. And based on human rights, I feel like sometimes you talk in a way to favor some people. It's not favoring. No, I'm coming. It's not encouraging them.
No,
but you see, they wanted to use advantage of. I'm coming. They wanted to use an advantage of, because he said they are not many, so they want to come out. If even they will come out, no matter how number they are, I'm coming. His words is his words. The word of the president is that he said they are not many. Whether they come out to demonstrate,
did God created Adam and Adam? God created Adam and Eve, not Adam and Adam or Eve and Eve. No, God created the first human beings, Adam and
no,
what?
we agree with that.
So like if God created Adam and Adam, that I'm also supporting gay. Or God created Adam and Eve, I'll support gay. But once God created Adam and Eve, I will never ever support gay.
Would you also believe that it really is? There are people here who do that. They practice.
Oh yeah, they are minority, not even minority. They are team. They are team. Those in Ghana, they are team.
But you see that because
those practicing it, I think the present interview give them advantage. Even some of them.
No, it doesn't mean.
Yeah, no. We are looking on the media, social media. Even some of them were saying they wanted to go and congratulate him and thank him
because of the answer.
Yeah, because of the answer that he gave.
He said because of they don't have support, there is no any coalition that will impose that so that it will be like something like Ghana need another paradigm shift, isn't it?
Yes.
So that means if they get the chance, they'll do what?
That clearly tells you that he did not say that you can do it.
Yes.
Out of his talks,
he said you can do it, but because you don't have support, that is
no, you don't have support. You are not many.
If you have the support, you do it. Yes.
I think that the president has disappointed Ghanaians, the chiefs and people of Ghana. Nobody, no malam, no chief, no priest anywhere will agree with what the president has said.
But I think we've made our stance clear. We don't like it.
Yes.
The stance is already there.
Yes, and the interviewer made it clear to him. But unfortunately for the president, I don't know. I've never known Nanado to be timid.
He was timid.
I'm tempted to believe that he was timid in the interview.
Okay.
Yes.
And because with issues like this, it's very delicate. And so if you want to talk to the issue, I think you should, massage it in a way.
Yes.
You don't have to affect both sides. What do you think?
No.
I mean,
you need to
massaging.
Because they're also humans, they have their rights.
They are humans. But it is, for me, and I know as a Muslim, and every Christian believes this, and Nanado is a staunch Christian, I know. And I know he attends churches. So why would he fear human beings than the one who created him? Okay. Because that is the rule set by the creator himself. Okay. So he should have relied on what the creator has set for him.
Yes.
homosexual life. In terms of say Oba. What we must Oba bia. Mommy be the Obukum na.
Mekunu. Mempene. Yes.
Oba wo na.
Enti dey. Na me say on pe. Enti ma yen ye.
Let's say any person obey.
Yes, yeah, pinning them pinochna. Tell for the power chop. Man fast had we back from was. Yapana chopa, yapana chop. Oh, from Bampo. Then by Okuba Sebes for one papa.
Look at the Apple CEO, for instance. Apple CEO is a gay. Yes. We don't like it, but keep the jobs. Buy not Steve Jobs, the new one. But still buy their product. If you don't like it, if I give an Apple product like this, you would like, you would take it. But the CEO is gay.
Yes, I know. I just buy the product, but I didn't buy something gay.
But no, the owner. You see, the case is that. You see, my brother, what they don't understand about the president is, we all know that the rule of the law in Ghana tells you that they haven't given any right to a gay. It's illegal in Ghana. We all know.
But
so I'm coming. If the president
about to give them the right,
sometimes the journalists used to push you on the wall. So they were trying to push the president because they knew what his predecessors talked about.
You should just roll on what?
No, he massaged it. He massaged it already.
So do you side with the minority who wants the president to apologize?
Yes, of course. He should. He should.
Why? He said they should do the gay.
Apologize in all the local languages. I'm telling you.
I don't side.
I don't the local languages.
As for me, I don't side for the. I don't side for the president. He should apologize. He should come back and let Ghanaians know it's clear.
No, he's apologized.
Because up to now, it's clear. We don't know it's clear. No, we don't know it's clear. Because the way he's talking, as if some people, some minority, when they gather themselves and push it, he will allow it to go. That is what he was. No. That is the interview. The way the interview. That is what he was thinking about. So we will not allow that.
I said no.
Yes.
He should have been bold. We know Nanado to be a bold person. He's not a timid person. Why would you go before a lady? Because she's fair colored or what? Just tell her your mind and walk out. Tell her your mind. That is what the good Lord told us to believe in. So that you tell her, my woman, look, yes, I'm a Western trained man, but me back home, my culture says that it's a no. So that everybody will be clear. Now he has created a whole.
Nanado culture even said no. Nanado is a Christian. Everybody know the church that is a Christian.
Talking about Christian.
Yes.
What's the name? The Christian Council says no amount of pressure will make them, agree.
Even the Muslims, even the Muslims will not allow side. But he will no. Let me tell you something. Yeah, he was our leader. Our leader is supposed to come out. No, he will never and tell the truth. He's a Christian, and he knows there is nothing that will make the law of gayism to be passed in Ghana.
Did you know that
because it's illegal?
Did you know
but you see,
has congratulated him by saying that.
When was that? And where? When and where?
Just yesterday.
On which?
Where? The guest has congratulated him.
I'm not privy to that.
Yes. I'm telling you for a fact. Look, my screen went off like I could have shown you.
On what? On what?
Yes,
on which
media? On Ghana Web, everywhere.
Why?
Congratulating him for saying that. That means yes. If that's why they were preparing to come out for December.
So are you telling me that
you see a time coming where we'll pass this law?
No. It will never happen. So you should not give them, but as at now, he's setting the state. Yes, as at now.
Is it not in the constitution of Ghana that is illegal? I'm coming.
Look,
it is in the criminal code.
So what's the criminal code? You should say, look, my country, in my constitution, my religions, the Muslims, the Christians are not abided by it. Please don't go there. You should roll on this, as Musa said. You should roll on what Atamis has already started. And then we should continue like that.
The thing is, we should run away from the it that it exists. It does exist in Ghana. And so if we've identified some persons, let's say a rehab for them, we can't kill them.
No.
Because they are not.
No, our religion, both Christian and Muslim, our religion show how we should deal with these people. We will deal with them. Islamic religion. We know the way we should live. The Islamic religion. Yes.
Even you, the one who sees a gay having gayism life, if you don't kill the person, then you yourself, the ball of your eye, they should damage it.
They should damage it.
Yes, because you have seen it. Yes. What you saw was very bad.
The president is bringing to us.
The president is not. This is what I don't agree with.
I know a lot of them who are gays. I know, and immediately I see them, they will not come near me because they know I'm going to tease them. Or that you see, we have to have this thing, this stigmatization against. We have to do it in Ghana here. If you see the gay,
Yes,
we have to do it because they will spoil our nation for us. We have to shut on them. Look, if possible, just as my brother said, we have to kill them. If that's
my brother,
possible.
that would be too harsh. Or my brother, look what is happening in the West today. Yes, so many hurricanes that is happening.
Are you telling me
that is true? But you want it to come in Ghana here? How come? You want hurricane to come in Ghana here? You want so many calamity to come in Ghana here? That is calamity.
Yeah, these are views we've sampled from residents here at Steamer on the legalization of homosexuality in Ghana, and some portion of people are not really comfortable with the president's stance on homosexuality during an interview at Al Jazeera, and they think he should have been bold to say no to this whole menace. Let's know what you also think. Log on to our social media platforms. On Facebook as News on TV3, and on Twitter as News TV3. Thanks for watching.
The finder is starting the morning and says that contains for 180-day senior high schools facilities to be upgraded in 75 others. These are efforts at fixing the senior high school challenges. The guide says CJ activates impeachment process, 5 probe EC bosses. That's the big one on the guide. The Daily Graphic says Woyomi gets breathing space, court orders suspension of retrieval of 51.2 million Ghana cedis. The BNFT says Bank of Ghana begs for time on lending rate, even as it reduces policy rate to 20%. The Ghanaian Times says review electricity tariffs downwards. President appeals to the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission. So those are some of the newspapers. The Statesman is carrying the PRC story too. My guest this morning to do the talking, the Member of Parliament for the Secondary Constituency, a member of the NPP, Honorable Andrew Jepa Mesa is here. Good morning.
Good morning,
Hope you're doing great.
I'm well.
Thanks for your time. I'm also good. Good. Thanks for your time with us. And then former Member of Parliament for the Ablekuma Central Constituency, a member of the NDC, Honorable Theophilus Tetacha is also here. Good morning too.
Yeah,
Hope you're doing great. Right, so let's begin the morning with the effort at fixing the senior high school challenges. Let me quickly grab the Finder newspaper. And on the top story on the Finder, canteens for 180-day senior high schools, facilities in 75 others get upgrading. We're told that government will next year initiate the construction of 180 canteen blocks in some existing day senior high schools. In addition, government also initiate the upgrading of 42 public senior high schools into model schools. The 2018 budget statement has revealed. The government has also secured $40 million under the Secondary Education Improvement Project to expand and upgrade facilities in 75 selected senior high schools. And there are also quite a number of efforts. 69,500 monodecks to be supplied, 13,100 bank beds to be added. We're told that 38,715 basic schools to receive science, technology, education equipment. Also, 125 low-performing senior high schools are to be upgraded, and again under cost vet, that is the Council for Technical and Vocational Education and Training, we're told that some courses are to be improved on. All this is aimed at making sure that these schools perform to their maximum capacities. The Secondary Education Improvement Program, SAPE, will also see 46 out of the 50 facilities being upgraded across the country. We're told it will be completed and handed over. So all these efforts to get these schools deal with the challenges that have been reported. Honorable Jepa Mesa, quickly, let me start with you. The President has acknowledged the challenges, and so we're beginning to see these efforts. Just about a week ago, the Finder again published a story about some 30+ senior high schools to benefit from upgrading. This is contained in the budget. For the people who are complaining of the challenges, this is ample evidence that government is committed to fixing them.
Well, I guess good morning to your cherished viewers is in order. Of course, to my good friend Theophilus here to your right. Good news by all accounts, if you ask me. I mean, the naysayers essentially have seen the commitment of government being demonstrated clearly in the 2018 budget. You see, I had the benefit, privilege of being in a presentation prior to the rollout of the program. And right from the inception, the minister indicated that, look, they were anticipating that some challenges would emerge, but that they had taken steps in the rollout plan to get those problems addressed immediately they arise. And so, of course, we are all aware that schools need desks, but based on the input that the head teachers themselves had submitted, the plan was that after the admissions are made, those who had challenges would then submit it to the ministry so that the support can be targeted as opposed to making it en masse across board, such that some schools may not necessarily need them at the time that, it was purely management of resource. But we are where we are, and the call or the cry that adequate preparations were not made, this thing is not sustainable, it cannot last for more than 5 years. I've even heard that there's talk of it being cancelled when the NDC ever have the opportunity of coming to power. Well, the president's commitment is clear, that for him, leadership is about choices. This country generates revenue that is allocated across all sectors of our economy, including education, health, roads, and all that. He's saying that his preference is for every Ghanaian child to go to school up to the age of 18 before they are released out there into the competitive work or world environment for them to, as it were, battle it out with everybody else. And that for him, that is something that is worth investing in. And so, to the extent that he remains president of this country, that is going to happen. He is going to prioritize and ensure that every Ghanaian child goes to school up to SHS for free. Others have said that, well, it's an impossibility. Clear provisions and plans that have been laid out comprehensively in the budget, I'm sure will put many of those concerns to rest.
I see. What about it that one of the concerns is that not much resources seem to be pushed into the program, and for some it is worrying. For instance, some civil society organizations have suggested that you want to deal with the challenges, so what is needed is to push more resources. But if you set up a voluntary fund, it is not enough. Isn't it a legitimate concern?
You see, that the clear mischief that people are putting to this voluntary fund thing is very unfortunate. Look, is it not the case that people make donations, contributions, and provide support to schools in this country from independence? And that it is entirely possible that some schools, well-endowed schools, the Chimotes and Adisados of this world, with my year group, renovated the bungalow for teachers. Okay, we converted one family unit into 2. People do it on a yearly basis.
To rely on that
to fund our schools? What government is saying is this, that look, we are a developing country, okay? We're working towards a Ghana beyond aid, but that doesn't take a day. It's a process. Support will come, but why don't we centralize it so that the managers of the education system can then channel those support that is coming from voluntary groups anyway to schools that need them, as opposed to they choosing where to send it to? Does that mean that that is the focus for funding the free SHS? But yes, people will twist it purely to play mischief. But you and I know that clearly That was the object as communicated by the finance minister when he delivered the budget. So why is it making it look as if that is the funding source that government is looking at to provide for the free SHS? When the president has stated clearly that he is going to fund it. What's the total revenue of this country?
The point is...
No, right, I'm asking, what is the total revenue of this country?
Funded from where? Is it
No,
not
I'm asking you a question
that
what is the total revenue?
Is it not
what
legitimate
is the total revenue for taxes that
I'm also asking
was collected last year?
Is it not legitimate to also ask that where are we funding the program from?
What is the total revenue of government 2017? In excess of 30 billion, correct? What was the budget for free SHS for 2017? 1.2 billion. So if we end 30 billion plus, we can't fund a 1.2 billion project. We cannot.
Has it been difficult for government to tell how it will fund the project?
I don't think so at all. And I don't even see the relevance of that question. Because government is given revenue by the people of Ghana, by way of taxes. It is the government's duty to prioritize and allocate the resources to the sectors that it deems important. After all, at the end of 4 years, he will go and account, and the people will make a determination as to how those resources of state were applied to our benefit. His Excellency the President has said consistently that leadership is about choices, and that he chooses to invest in our education rather than leave 100,000 Ghanaian children on an annual basis to go to rot, essentially. So what is even the relevance of the question as to how that policy is going to be funded? I fail to see it.
I'm grateful. Honorable Tetechai, so government is making efforts at fixing these challenges, but there are concerns that if you set up a fund that is said to be voluntary and it is supposed to support the system, some critics are suggesting that it is not good enough to push the system on. But the issue then here by Honorable Mesa is that, for instance, we should even ask how the project will be funded, because government is committed to funding it.
Yeah, thank you very much, and let me say good morning to your viewers. Yeah, first of all, let me make it very clear that the NDC as a political party has never said anywhere that when we come into office, a free senior high school is going to be cancelled.
Well, you are not in Takwa over the weekend.
It is a propaganda.
You are not in Takwa over the weekend.
Please. We have never said it anywhere that we are going to cancel the free senior high school that is being implemented by the current administration. What we said was that the challenges that are inherent in the implementation, we are going to reverse it. So please, let's get it clear. We said we will ensure that we reverse the challenges that the good people of this country are going through as at now. We never said we were going to cancel it. So let me assure the good people of this country that the NDC as a political party will continue to ensure that the free senior high school is implemented to the benefit of the good people of this country. And what we are talking about is about the quality that we need to add to what is being done today.
You said it's impossible.
Now,
it's not sustainable.
Please,
those are your words.
Honorable Mesa, if you can allow him, when it is time for you to talk, I'll get you into it. Okay. Right. So, Honorable Tetechai, please go on.
You see, government is telling us that 180 days
senior high schools
are going to be
canteen.
Canteen, yes. But if you could remember, as far back as July, this issue came up, and government assured the good people of this country that facilities will be made available by the end of July in schools that are going to be challenged in terms of this day feeding. But we are in almost November ending. right?
The first term is about
that has not seen the light of day. Okay? Now, it tells you that there is a funding gap. Look, the challenges that we are having today is as a result of a funding gap.
We don't have the money.
Exactly. We don't have the money. So if my good friend talks of prioritizing, then it means government itself is not committed to ensure that it will make resources available to fund a free senior high school. Because if the issue is the fact that we reckon revenue as in excess of about 30 billion. Okay? And he thinks that
1.2 billion.
That all what we need is about 1.6 billion. Okay? And government within the first term is not even able to raise the resources adequately to fund the system. Then it tells you that even the commitment from government is not that very high on the issue, if judging from what he said. But you see, we have several ministries, departments, and agencies in this country that equally need resources. Okay? We need resources to fund our road networks. We need resources to increase water supply. So the resources that we generate as a country is limited. Our budget for a year is not able to even adequately support the various sectors of the economy. Okay? So government cannot say that, look, the resources that it has is going to use everything to support education.
Look at that.
What is your problem?
Government
cannot say that it is using all the resources to fund education. Because look, when you do that, there's going to be a disequilibrium. And what is going to happen is that in the near future, after bringing up these children, educating them, you don't have the infrastructure to support, how do you call it, in terms of employment. You don't even have the infrastructure. So there's the need for you to balance, okay? But you see, I've always said that before you start a project, you need to count the cost and make sure that you prioritize what you want to achieve, okay? Yes, as a political party, we decided that, look, as a result of the resources that we had, let us start it in a progressive manner. You have an alternative, which is the full-blown, okay? That is a policy choice. But the question is, we should not allow the full-blown to rather destroy our educational system. Then it means we've just wasted resources, okay? And initially, when the issues were being raised, okay, communicators of the government were moving from one radio station, one TV station, debunking what was being said. I quite remember your station, you went to the field, other radio stations went to the field to highlight the negatives in the implementation of this free senior high school policy, okay? But still people were denying what was happening. And you see, what made matters worse was the gagging of the implementers in this particular process. That is the headmasters, the headmistresses, accountants, those who were supposed to ensure that this thing came up effectively. Because look, when you are implementing a policy, stakeholders are very key, okay? No matter what, everybody accept the fact that, look, in every policy implementation, there are challenges, okay? But ensure that the stakeholders who are ensuring that the policy works are given the free will so that they can be able to highlight the challenges so that you'll be able to address those challenges as we move along. But headmasters, headmistresses were gagged. Those who tried to air their views were sacked from their positions, okay? So when a government does that, it means what we were trying to do was to hide the negatives which wasn't good. Okay? But you see, it's just like pregnancy. Once you are pregnant, it will definitely show. People will see that you are pregnant. Okay? And that is what is happening now. And for me, I'm very happy that government has now accepted the challenge, has accepted all the weaknesses, all the challenges that various institutions, stakeholders have raised. And then even their own party members, big wigs, have gone into the various schools to assess what is happening. And they've come back to tell the government that no, what is happening is not fair to the children of this country. Let us do something about it. And all of us as a country, we need to help the government to succeed, because it is our children. Okay? Because the free senior high school system that is being operated now, the rich will have their children there, the poor also have their children there. So we are all in that soup. So we have to ensure that we bring pressure on government to ensure that the bottlenecks that are not giving us the quality are cleared. So if government has the resource now to ensure that our canteens are made available, so that we will not use library rooms for feeding children, we will not use the classroom as a feeding ground for our children, who will go against this? Nobody will go against this. So for me, let us make the resources available. Yes, in the budget, recently we were being told that another $40 million is being contracted.
From the U.S. government.
That is good. That is good. We want more resources to be channeled into ensuring that we have quality free senior high school, not quantity. We want quality. Right. And all of us are in the same boat, whether you are in the NPP, whether you are in the NDC, whether you are in the CPP, or you are non-aligned. It is affecting the children of this country. And we must allow our party egos to, we should allow those things to just lie down and then work together as a country to ensure that we have a very good system in place.
All right.
So nobody, no party is against the free senior high school.
Let's move
implementation.
On. Let me move on.
Right. It's important that you give me an opportunity.
You want a reaction? I thought we could be good because he was raising the issue of. Okay, you raised.
What did I say? Which is
you raised. Honorable Mesa, for instance, you raised the issue that this country makes about 30 billion cedis as revenue, and the senior high school needs 1.2 billion. Exactly. And he said that, well, if that is the case, and if there are challenges, then it means that government's commitment is lacking. Is it a legitimate question, argument to make?
It cannot be legitimate at all. Cannot be legitimate. You see, let's listen to them. They've changed their position at every point. One, initially it was impossible. It can only happen in 20 years. What we have to do is to do progressive. Now, you support it, but that government is not committed to providing resources. When you said the resources are not available, that's been their position consistently.
But are the resources available?
You see, but I've just indicated to you, I'm aware, on authority, that all the funding that was budgeted for the implementation of first term 2017 was released by the Finance Ministry to the Ministry of Education. Now,
so in their rollout, you see, wait, in tents and some eating,
that's why I indicated to you.
Is available.
Listen, this is
let's not believe
a new policy. Okay, that government engaged the stakeholders. Conference of Heads of Assisted Secondary Schools. One, give us your capacity, intake, and that's what led to the agri-memorial head teacher being sanctioned that he refers to as gagging the implementers.
Do
not charge fees.
Yes. Was also removed
what happened?
For saying that there was
do you know the number of pressmen?
Allow him to go.
You see, there was a clear guideline for the implementation. That
people shouldn't talk?
People shouldn't talk means what? If you had a capacity of 1,000 last year, and you come and say that this year you can only admit 200, you shouldn't be questioned. It's not legitimate to question you.
So it's not legitimate. The agri headmaster
so what are we talking about? You see, of course, we was in the news.
We all heard it. And listen, Bright, it's important. The propaganda that they are playing with this thing, look, last week,
which one is the propaganda?
All the news items relating to this free SHS, the problems, the commentary that had been coming. He showed pictorial evidence of it in Parliament.
They are not real?
They are real. I agree. And any single school that is facing challenges, those challenges ought to be resolved. But they're making it seem as if that this program is a complete failure.
No.
I'm saying that it is not.
No.
Can we say...
So let's give credit where it is due and be constructive in our criticism.
Rather
than making it look as if Tuesday has happened in Ghana.
Honorable Mesa, the Education Minister, Dr. Matthew Poku Prempeh, I remember speaking to him somewhere around March when the issue of one meal for day students came up, and the question was, there are some schools that are day schools without places for eating. How do we get these kids rooms to eat? He said that all these things will be worked out
by July.
Is it not legitimate that today we should ask that, was there no provision for these canteens until today?
Look, I did not hear the Minister of Education.
I asked him,
and of course, I can't speak for him in respect of this matter.
Right.
But what I'm saying is that prior to the implementation of this program, I was privileged to be in the meeting that he gave a briefing and indicated clearly the rollout, the problems that they were potentially likely to come up, and the measures that they had put in place to resolve them. And of course, Mr. Opoku Prempeh is available to speak to this matter specifically.
And
so the question I am asking, the question I'm asking is, for instance, for day schools, these are day schools, and so we don't need headmasters to come and tell us that we need places to feed.
So, right, are you saying that government should have waited to provide canteens for all the schools before the program was rolled out?
I have not said. I'm only asking.
But the clearly provision has been made to address whatever challenge
March, when
that
the
has
issue
been
was
encountered.
raised, he gave us by July ending that those things will be made available.
So
in November.
So these things, what
you were in government for 8 years. When you were building those schools, didn't you know that you had to provide facilities for them?
It was their schools.
And somebody has come and decided that, look, to keep them in school, give them one hot meal a day.
Then you provide their canteens.
Provide a canteen. Does it happen in a day? Is it not a process?
Since March.
Okay. All right.
Please.
I'm grateful. Let's move on. The Ghanaian Times has a story. The board of the PURC is been inaugurated. The story says that the president yesterday inaugurated the board of the Public Utility Regulatory Commission with a call on the members to look into government's proposal for the downward review of tariffs. The members on the board were chaired by Mr. Michael Opam. The rest, a lot of them mentioned there, they are reps from TUC and other stakeholders. Now, President Akufo-Addo said the government in the 2018 budget had reviewed the tariff setting methodology and cost structure of power production in the country to bring relief to businesses and household consumers of electricity. The proposal, he said, had been sent to the PRC for consideration, adding it is important for government that we bring relief to the Ghanaian consumer and industry. He, however, reminded the board of its independence and said that the members were not subject to control or direction of any person or authority in the performance of their functions. That's the story. Honorable Tatacha, let me start this one with you. The ISE, the Institute of Social Statistical and Economic Research, over just yesterday suggested that one key thing in bringing that tariffs is to reduce taxes in the build-up. PRC is to consider the 13%, the 21% proposal made by government. Is the PRC in a position to do this, looking at what goes into being put together as electricity tariff?
Yeah, thank you very much. On the day that the budget was read, Ghanaians were made to believe that there's going to be cut in the amount of money they spend on the electricity in the incoming year. That's 2018. But government fell short as to whether that implementation will be done or will not be done as a result of how it was presented. Because a recommendation is being sent to the PURC so that they will look at it. And then if there is a need for them to reduce it by 13% up to the 21% for industries, then that can be done. So first of all, as we sit as a country, we, as citizens, we don't know whether that implementation can be made possible or not. But you see, where I have a challenge is the fact that there is a levy or tariff on the fuel or the energy that we use, okay? That government has control over. Which government can decide today that, look, this is the tax that I charge or I use in doing other projects. So in order to help the good people of this country, I'm taking this percentage out of that tariff that I have imposed on consumers, okay? Government didn't do that, okay? And that is what, is it Isa or what? You mentioned...
yes, the Institute of Social Statistics.
Exactly, and that is what they are saying, that government could have easily done that.
Take off the taxes.
And then made
get tariffs,
us...
electricity tariffs
Exactly,
down.
and then made the good citizens of this country benefit instantly from the cut down in the tax. But government is not talking about that one. And government is telling us that, looking at what is happening, they think they've reorganized the whole thing in such a way that the PURC can't do something about the tariffs. Okay? Now, the question that we all need to ask is that the PURC does not fix tariffs on their own. There are stakeholders in the industry. Okay?
Independent power producers.
Yes, we have the VRA, we have the GRICO, we have the ECG. These are stakeholders, okay, in determining how much we have to pay as a people. And we all know that currently we are not depending much on hydro. It's thermal, being powered by gas and then crude, okay? And we know prices of crude oil has gone up. So, government has just left everything to the PURC. For me, that is what I see. At the end of the day, if PURC is not able to do what request that government has put before them, then the whole thing will look like, oh, government wanted to do it. PURC said what? No. For me, that is it. But government could have easily taken off the tariffs.
The taxes.
The taxes on the current that we pay today. And then that is it. So the question we need to ask government, why is the government not reducing the tariffs, the taxes on the tariffs? Why? And why are they saying that?
Want a response?
Well, you'll be given the opportunity to.
Oh, I thought you told me, so I thought you wanted me to respond.
All right, go on. Where did the champions go on?
It's as simple as that. So if government really wants to, and you see, the question too we need to ask, if they say 13%, 13% on the total, is it 13% on a certain figure? Do you get it? So as you sit now, the three of us, as we are seated now, we don't even know that if I'm paying 50 cedis per month for my electricity bill, whether even if, let's say, the 13% is accepted, it will lead to a 13% downward trend on the 50 cedis I pay. We don't even know. So, for me, let's wait and see.
Why are you talking if you don't know?
That is why we are bringing all the questions. Because government refused to tell us these things. Okay, if government, wait, hold on. If government had come out to tell us that the 13% reduction is on the entire amount, then I know my bill is going to be reduced by 13%. Okay? But government is telling us that they've made certain realignments, and they know that with the tariffs that the percentage that they want to be reduced, something can be done about it. Where that thing can be done, you and I, you don't know, unless you tell us you have knowledge.
All right.
So these are the questions we, the citizens, need to put before the government. That there are taxes. Are we taking the 13% of the taxes? Then that one, even government did not need the approval of PURC. You could have done that because that is for government. But government is not doing that, but rather urging the PURC to reduce the tariffs, the taxes downwards, the tariffs downwards. It tells you that there is something that government is not ready to tell us. So if my good friend has those informations, the good people of the country are watching. Tell us.
Right.
Now I'll put the question to you.
I am grateful. For instance, industry is asking that in the build-up to a new year, they rely on certain figures to put in their business propositions. So, for instance, government has hinted of a 20% reduction to be considered by PRC. Now, assuming businesses, we're just hitting the end of the year, businesses are going to work with that, and it doesn't happen. It goes to affect their total operations. Now, is PRC, or how quick should PRC deal with this?
Well, I believe that the PURC will deal with this matter expeditiously. But you see, Bright, the failure to see the mischief in the submissions is what baffles me. Because you see,
what is the mischief?
What informed the setting up of PURC in the first place?
They have a mandate.
To do what?
To fix tariffs.
To fix tariffs in what manner? Clearly to create an equilibrium, so that the utility providers cannot charge rates that are
abnormal. Yeah.
So, clearly, PURC is there to protect the consumer. Correct?
And also to protect the providers.
Whatever, consumers don't set tariffs. And the tariffs that are approved by PURC comes from the producers, and they apply it, and when the PURC approves, then we pay. So essentially, the PURC is there to protect you and I. So if government, okay, which is a key stakeholder in the power generation scheme, is saying that I have reviewed the entire value chain and have realized that I can make reductions of so much money without necessarily impacting the revenue of government, you say you should have taken off the levy. Is the levy 13%?
It's a good question for you to answer.
You understand? So I just don't get the argument. You see, no, Fred, let me finish. I'll deal with the ISA one. I'll deal with it.
Okay.
Yes, ISA is a civil society organization, if you like, that has views on how things ought to be done. Government is responsible for managing this economy, and it has views on how things ought to be done. So government is doing it the way that it thinks is in the best interest of the people.
It is only the opinion.
Now,
they are
you see,
not
yes, that's fine. That's
fine.
fine. That's fine. They are entitled to their opinion.
Okay.
I'm saying that because PURC is the body mandated by law to approve tariffs, necessarily government ought to take it there. But government is part of the production value chain. Okay? The savings that have been made at Ghana Gas and all those places is what has resulted in this percentage that is being put before the regulator, if you like, to approve. And then you say that government is only taking it to PURC, so that if PURC then says that it's not going to approve it, government will say, that's what you said here.
No.
Government will say that, well, I wanted to do it, but it's the PURC that is saying that it's not going to approve.
I've raised questions.
Government is part of the production chain. And
questions.
if the producer is saying that I want to reduce my tariffs by 13%, how is the regulator going to say that no, I'm going to approve the reduction? That
some have even argued that the PRC is an independent body that government should not have even consulted or put in a proposal. You also...
Is it not the body that has been mandated by law to approve electricity?
Right, an independent
so
body. And the president alluded to the independence of the body.
They look at the individual power producers.
But of course, it is... Look,
all those things are factored into
the fact of the matter is that invariably, every time that the PURC has to take a decision on electricity tariffs, it's always towards an increase. Invariably.
No.
Look.
No.
No.
You
see, but this is commonsensical.
Is it a fact?
No.
This is commonsensical.
No.
We don't even have to debate this.
No, we have to. Because
the body is there to ensure.
A few reviews have seen downward.
Yes, reductions. Yes, that's true.
Yes.
And do those reviews necessarily go from the producers? Are we aware?
Of course.
No, and the PURC approves by saying that no, don't reduce it by 10%, but reduce it by 2%.
My concern.
I don't get it.
My concern is how should PURC deal with this quickly? Because if you are not careful, we throw the operations of companies into disarray, because the fixing of the taxes will impact on what they do in 2018. If 21% is not agreed on, and they have in their books, they are looking at 21% reduction, it will affect how they work in 2018.
I do not speak for the PURC, but I can see clearly that the board having been constituted, and of course I know the chairman quite well, and my own brother-in-law, Mr. Quigrin, is on there as well. They are going to deal with this matter expeditiously, because it only stands to reason that if government has submitted a proposal that intends
is
doable. Wait, of course, why not?
Okay.
It is coming from the producers. They are saying they want to reduce fuel tariffs by so much percent. Okay. Or you think government hasn't engaged the producers and all that?
Well, so is government now doing the work of the PURC?
Wait, Honorable Mesa, so please go on. Producers, you think that the producers are those who are asking for the 13%?
No, I'm saying that government is deeply involved in the value chain. Okay? Ghana Gas is owned by government. I know that significant changes have been made in there that clearly offers value and can lead to some savings that is being applied for the benefit of the people of Ghana. And if that proposal is coming to PURC to reduce the tariffs for the benefit of the final consumer, PURC will say no.
Let me remind you that the finance minister said that it is making the recommendation to PURC to consider.
You see,
because the finance minister said
what other wording were you expecting the minister to put out? That I'm directing the PURC to approve the reduction of these rates.
I think Ghanaians would have been happier.
But it is an independent body that reviews proposals that come to it
in the same
for either an increase or a reduction. Now, if you want to increase, clearly you have to make some justification. But if you want to reduce, they will require you to justify why you want to reduce the rates so that the people can benefit.
Of course.
What regulator does that?
All right.
No, you tell me.
So there are stakeholders.
So let's leave it for PURC.
It is not only the PURC. There are stakeholders. They buy fuel.
Let's leave it for the PURC to deal with it.
Right. Let's wrap up on the saying today. Okay. Next year, when the tariffs, when everything is done,
1st January.
Yes, we will come back and then analyze the same issue.
Okay, I'm grateful.
Ready.
We'll leave it here.
So long as God grants me life.
We'll leave it here. 21%. That's what's on the table for PRC to deal with. But the Bank of Ghana yesterday reduced the policy rate. It's now 20%. The Heritage newspaper has a story, and the BNFT has a story. After reducing the policy rate, the Bank of Ghana is suggesting that it needs a longer period of sustainability in managing these figures for banks to work on their inefficiencies, for lending rates to begin to trend downwards to reflect the Bank of Ghana's loosening of the monetary policy. So That's the story. The call for interest rates to go down. The Bank of Ghana says because of the inefficiencies in these banks, it will take some time. Honorable Tadija, let's wrap up on this one. We don't have a lot of time.
Yeah.
The interest rate.
Yeah, for me, anytime the policy rate is reduced, as a citizen, I don't feel the benefit of the reduction. Because I believe that when there is a reduction, it should reflect on how much interest I pay when I go to the various commercial banks to request for a loan, okay? But for some time now, the policy rate has been going down, but the lending rate is still above the 30% that we know, okay? And all the time, what the banks tell us is that they have inefficiencies, okay, in terms of bad loans. The question is, I always ask myself, is it the making of government or the making of we the citizens for the banks to contract loans that turn up to be bad? When you have officers within your setup that issue, how do you call it, loans to people that at the end of the day becomes a bad loan to your institution. But you see, my worry is that once government is reducing the policy rates, it is incumbent on government to ensure that the commercial banks also reduce their rate, because the rates are being reduced to give them space to operate. But if I consistently give you that relief and you don't show the other side to my citizens, why should I continue doing that? Because the more we continue doing that, foreign investors will also invest in our economy because of this Bank of Ghana policy rate. Will also start losing interest in saving, in investing in the economy of the country. That is the other side of it.
Because of high interest rates?
Exactly. That is the other side of it. So for me, we the good citizens of this country should not pay for the inefficiencies of the commercial banks. So the commercial banks need to ensure that the people that they lend to are people that will pay back. So that when my government wants me to go to them to acquire loans at a cheaper rate, I should be able to get it. What is it? So for me, anytime this thing is red, I don't see the essence, because the interest rate is still good where it is. Nothing has changed.
I see. Honorable Mr. Should the customer pay for the inefficiencies of these commercial banks?
Well, I don't think that it is necessarily the customer paying for the inefficiencies of the banks. I have worked in a bank for several years, so yes, the expectation for everybody would have been for the interest rate to trend downwards anytime that the policy rate is reduced. But unfortunately, there are some structural challenges that the banks face that makes their risk premium a little bit higher. So they pass it on, you know, to consumers.
Should it be that?
It shouldn't be that. I guess that's why the governor of the Bank of Ghana clearly indicated that with time, as those structural challenges are corrected, as our economy is formalized, as our addressing system is improved, as ID is rolled out, clearly credit reporting will become much more functional, and the banks can profile their client base appropriately and price. And so it's really a function of time, you know, and I believe that as the economy stabilizes, as the indicators look positive with time, and I hope that it is soon, these rates would come down, because it really makes our businesses very not competitive. I was having a conversation with friends of mine over the weekend who have boldly ventured into industry, and you know, the level of
difficulty that they face, particularly with their foreign competitors who are able to borrow from their home countries at significantly low rates. They come in here, enjoy all the tax incentives because of the GIPC regime. And they sit here, borrow at astronomical rates, and have to compete with these same foreign companies in the market. And it's really tough. You know, so these things are things that ought to be looked at. And I believe that, as the governor indicated, with time we will see some traction in that regard.
Is government able to compel these banks to do it?
I don't think so. I mean, in a market economy where the forces of demand and supply dictate the pricing regime that the banks charge. Of course, they are in as businesses to make profit as well. I know that most banks react by reducing their base rate consistent with the reduction in the policy rate, save that the risk premium that they add to the base rate to arrive at the end user interest that they charge their consumers is what is relatively high, and that is what I believe that the steps that are being taken should
deal with it,
go to impact it
for
the benefit of we the borrowing public.
I'm grateful. Johnny, good one once again.
Thank you, Senior.
Let's check some comments.
Sure. George Quating in Adenta says, of course, we're all agreed that there are some challenges with the FSHS policy, but must we condemn the whole policy because of our political interest? Ex-President Mahama and his minority must begin to be more patriotic and contribute to the development of this country rather than being a doomsayers and defeaters. Free SHS is undoubtedly here to stay. Good morning, TV3 crew. The government is not paying much attention on sanitation issues. Government is not consulting environmental health inspectors before putting those issues into the public domain. Amuzu Solo Oscar in Georgia Volta region. Hi, bro. Alasan Wana Enwa says MPP government inherited power outages, doomsaw, low growth, unemployment, high indebtedness, and interest payment of loans contracted from previous the NDC government. But just within 10 months in power, the MPP government under the hardworking Nana Akufo-Addo has taken a tremendous measures to grow the economy and address the challenges. Okay. Good morning, Bright. Our president's response to homosexuality was not a condemnation of it, but a potential recipe for its introduction. His thoughts must be resisted and condemned by all Ghanaians. Isaku Ntamale. Komla Ozono in Ebri Sector says the president should have just been straightforward and told them no. Bright, no matter the amount of pressure, we will not budge. Imagine your son telling you he's bringing his partner to you for introduction only to bring a man home. It's simply an abomination. Simple. Good morning, TV3. For me, I know that the president will allow the legalization of gay and even that of marijuana too. Bernard Blessing in Ho says it's going to be a double do. Please organize a program. What's wrong with us? I sometimes think we are not normal. Sorry. Okay, so I think that my catchphrase this morning, Bright, what's wrong with us? What hit us is catching fire. Maybe we should start a new program on Saturdays. What is wrong with us? Ever since the president shared his view on this gayism and lesbianism, there's not been anything to be talked about of this nation, as if there's nothing to talk about in this country. Nana Noche in Kenton Chrono is worried. Good morning, Bright and crew. Looking at the way the police brutalized naked students of Katanga Hall, can they do the same to the MPP visible Delta forces? Cliff Lizard in Pando wants to know that if the police could act swiftly in that manner, why have they left the Delta Force and the invisible forces to okay. Good morning, TV3. You helped so much in the posting of newly trained teachers, but not all were posted due to referral. Nearly 4,000 newly trained teachers were left out and were asked to redeem themselves before being posted. We have redeemed ourselves with distinctions and we are now waiting to be posted. GES is saying nothing to us. Our results were released on November 22nd and yet no information. Please tell TV3, find out the last batch of posted when it's coming. We're tired of being at home and frustrated at Deep and Buying Tamale. And good morning, Senior Bright. Please tell Mr. Mensah not to play games with Ghanaians. What at all is he trying to defend? Please, we are learning and we are not moving back. One from Mamprobi, okay, one person says, Asantuaba Kwame Matiana Nanakrom says, is it English that the NDC doesn't understand, or they are just making propaganda as they always do? I'm asking the NDC, in which part of the interview did President Akufo-Addo say that he will legalize homosexuality? They should be citizens and stop being spectators. Opposition NDC must be up and doing. The government of the day is in dilemma as to how to run the government. They are so confused. They're so confused, to my opinion. They must be exposed to the whole world and subsequently shown the exit come 2020. Alaji Willie P. in Efiekoma. Mr. Andrew Mensah, are you trying to explain some things that... Thank you, Brian.
You know,
right. Johnny, I'm
the environment that we are in.
Gentlemen, I am grateful.
Everything that you see in a different light, and your opponent will see it in a different light as well.
Exactly.
So it's part of the territory.
I'm grateful for your time, gentlemen, this morning. Honorable Andrejapa Mensah is a member of parliament for the Secondary constituency, a member of the NPP, and Honorable Theophilus Etechai is a former member of parliament for the Ablekuma Central constituency, a member of the NDC. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
And those of you who sent in your comments, we're grateful. We'll read the rest. Stay with us. We'll have sports after this.
See me there with Jeremy, very tracking sound. What's going on right now? And I'm sure that you want to place a call to a farmer you know, somebody who has an interest in all that's agriculture, because ahead of Farmers' Day, we want to interrogate the partnership that government must have with the private sector and how to, for example, attract a lot of investors into it so we can make our lots there better. I've got with me Farmer Anthony Morrison, is the president of the Ghana Chamber of Agribusiness. Good morning.
Good morning.
And also Farmer Emmanuel Ansa Amprofi is the chief operating officer of the Trotro Tractor Limited. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you.
Let me start with you and ask you, what's the state of agriculture in this country, 2017?
Well, thank you very much, and a very good morning to all your viewers, and especially to my members of the chamber. I must say that, yes, 2017 have seen a lot of government intervention in the agriculture sector. We've seen the Planting for Food and Jobs. We've seen other moves by the government to make agriculture more sustainable. However, within the private sector area, has been a little bit of challenge. We also need to acknowledge the fact that the role of agriculture and the agribusiness value chain is a main and a dominant player in within the Ghana's economic sector.
Right.
And there is every opportunity in there for the government to work on. We're going to the Farmers' Day as well.
Right.
So I think we're going to see some improvement, some promises, and I think that 2017, well, will be a good year ending come Friday.
Mr. Ansa Amprofi, let me come to you and I ask you from an investor's point of view. Farmers' Day has been celebrated over and over again, really. Has it served its purpose? Does it scratch the farmer where they itch in terms of what their situation is now?
Well, good morning to you all, and good morning to our viewers across Ghana and Africa. Yes, it's two ways. Has it scratched the surface? Yes or no? Well, we have a day that is set aside to celebrate the farmer. That is one. That is one area. But the key question is, how has it been beneficial? At least there's a metric to measure to see what kind of farmer we are, what kind of improvement we are in the system. Because if there's nothing to reward or gauge or to measure, there wouldn't be that. So yes, it has scratched the surface, but beneath the surface is where the challenge is.
From an investor's point of view, tell me, challenges pertain. What are some of these challenges that you have? You want to speak to some?
Yes.
Great.
Challenges in our area seriously has to do with funding.
Okay. Capital.
One, capital, easy access to capital. Two, technology adaptation is key. Okay. Because we live in a country or in a continent whereby we keep relying on the rain for our agriculture against. Meanwhile, look at the quantum of water we are allowed to enter the sea and then we will turn around to build the sea defense. So in that area, yes, policies, how do we introduce policies and then leave the policies to life? These are some of the challenges that
But there's the ADB, the Agricultural Development Bank, that was set up primarily to provide capital for farmers. I come to, Anthony, but let me stay with you a bit.
Yeah.
Doesn't the ADB provide funding for farmers or people who want to get into agri?
Unfortunately, no.
It doesn't?
I'll be very blunt.
The Agricultural Development Bank
When you check on the current ratings now, Barclays is even doing better in terms of funding to agriculture or agribusinesses as compared to ADB.
Are you sure about that?
Yes.
The state-owned ADB, which was set up for the farmers.
Exactly. If you check the ratings now, the current ratings now, ADB, it's nowhere near Barclays Bank when it comes to agri funding. You see, let's look at the critical aspect of youth. We're claiming youth involvement in agriculture, but let me give you some metrics or some basic principle.
Quickly.
I'm a young farmer. I do vegetables. I do fruit as well. Blue Skies is ready to buy my fruit, but I can't get enough funding to even start. Even though I have a guarantee from Blue Skies, a company like Blue Skies, who is importing 30% of their raw materials to do this thing. Now, when you approach the bank, if you are lucky, your bank is going to give you a credit facility. It's asking for huge interest rate and then you repayment period. Let's use pineapple for an example. You cannot start paying as a pineapple farmer after even 6 months of credit. You need a moratorium of about 12 months. Because you start harvesting only from 13 months and above. So clearly, when the bank gives you money, he's asking for
and they put you in the 6 months brackets. They are not doing you any good.
No, they are not even putting you in 6 months. They are asking you to pay from next month, the following month.
That you don't blame the government that much.
Yes.
Who would you blame?
The private sector.
The private, you see, our problem with finance in Ghana within agriculture sector has to do with a lot of things. It's a multifaceted area. Now, we as a country do not have a raw data on agriculture. Now, this is what the investor needs. This is what any other investment opportunities out there requires to put in their.
So when we're told that in 2016, for example, agri grew at a record low of 0.04%, that data doesn't count?
Well, you see, it did count, but when you're talking about consistent raw data, we do not have it. Now, there are a lot of other challenges, like clarity on land ownership. We've done the land reforms, and also our agriculture policies. We have the medium-term agriculture sector investment plan. We have the FSD 1 and 2. And we also have the Africa Comprehensive Agriculture Development Program. These are some areas that you expect government to force and translate some of these.
So let me come to you one after the other. You mentioned funding. What could government, for example, do to attract some of you investors into it? What can they do?
First of all, government have to engage the private sector.
Okay.
Now, the government as it stands now is competing in the same smaller space with the private sector. I'll give you one example. Currently ongoing is the construction of the warehouses to be used for storing some of these
buffer stock.
Exactly. Now, this should have been done by the private sector.
Why so? We used to have state farms.
Yes,
didn't we?
We used to.
Okay.
Now, agriculture has moved on. What we're doing now is huge. We are involving the value chain. And if you really want the value chain to be effective, government needs to start understanding the metrics of the value chain.
So are you suggesting that government should focus just on policy so that private sector will do in the PPP?
That is what, I mean, we need to enhance the private partnership within the agriculture
But
value
then
chain.
if the private sector, as you said, doesn't have access to funds, infrastructure is a challenge, technological adaptation is a problem.
Yes.
How do you leave it in the hands of private sector?
It's because government is focusing on everything. If government can use its limited resources to focus on translating policies into structures, infrastructures, then the private sector can leverage on that.
Planting for food and jobs, one district, one factory, one village, one dam.
Yes.
These are key projects that the government put up. How does that attract private investors in agriculture?
Well, those are very innovative programs that the government has done well by introducing. In a sense that, for me as a private sector, planting for food and jobs once, you're giving them seeds, you give them input and all those ones. But the key thing is, I look at it from the angle of how do I zoom in, or how do I get into the system? How do I do it? As I'm doing tractors. Mechanization is key. We cannot continue to be doing the same cutlass and hoe.
Right.
There's no way it's going to change. Because if you are giving them the seed and they are going to put it on hard grounds, it's not going to work. So mechanization, I sit as a point of an investor, I see, okay, how can I bring machines into the system that will till the land? Now, that will increase their yield.
Okay.
After increasing their yield, it's going to give them more time to be able to do some other things, so increase their livelihood. That, after increasing yield, what's next? How do we cut these goods from the farm gate to the market centers?
The bad roads come to play.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's a cross-sector approach.
So now I'm curious. I want to know, for example, the government agencies, the GRA, the Ghana Export Promotion Authority, and all the other agencies that you play along with.
Yeah.
What kind of interaction do you have with them? Because these things affect it anyway.
Well,
The Ghana Export Promotion Authority, for example, has a target that we must export X amount of produce by the end of the year. If the roads are not good, and you have a conversation with them and they don't seem to care, then what are we doing?
Yeah, it's a good approach. I mean, we do have this tete-a-tete with all these government agencies. We see NBSSI collaborating with smaller businesses to have some form of a discount at the Ghana Standards Authority who are trying to standardize their operations.
Right.
Okay, when it comes to GRA and all the rest, if you're operating within a limited frame, you can go back to GRA and say, look, this is how much I've invested in, I'm not making it. Can you review my tax requirements? There are a lot of things in there that the entrepreneur...
Do the farmers know about these?
Well, it's all about education. You see, you made mention of the planting for food and jobs, one district, one factory. All these borders on what? Skills.
Okay.
Now, we have at COTVET what we call the competence-based training, the CBT, ATVET, and the TVET training. What is the government doing about it so that the industry, the investor bringing in the money, knows that I have people on the ground, the labor on the ground are skilled enough.
But you are a chamber. You are a full chamber of agric. If you are not trumpeting it, who will trumpet it for you?
We have been doing, as it stands now, we are doing a program with COTVET at PDRC as we speak. And it's been running for the past 1 month, and GIZ is sponsoring it. You see, when it comes to these sectors, you expect a more inclusive engagement with the government.
And you think that government is not being inclusive enough? On a scale of 0 to 100, how included has government been in your activities?
In agribusiness?
Yes.
I'll give them 25%.
That's a fail.
No, it's not that they fail. It's because the resources are not there.
If you write exam and you get 25%, you fail.
Yeah, but there are factors that goes in there. You require government to have enough resources. The resources are not there. So you cannot possibly give government on a leverage a more field playing ground. You understand? Now, in this sector as we have it too, we do have other challenges. You know, most of the time, the planting for food and jobs, you require lots of youths who are engaging in that. Now, this
you don't find agric attractive.
No, it's not because
that is wrong.
No,
that's wrong.
That's wrong. They do find it attractive.
If I walk into ADB, a bank that is designated to afford me capital to be able to get into farming whatsoever, and I can't get the funds, where do I get the funds from? I'm fresh out of school. I have a degree in agriculture or animal husbandry, whichever it is. Okay. I want to farm, but there's no money.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a disincentive to start with.
No, it's not.
My father doesn't own a cocoa farm that I'm going to inherit to see I'm going to turn it over and work at it. Fall armyworm comes into the whole matter.
Absolutely.
I don't have funds. Why should I be interested in it?
That's why we have agribusiness.
Let Emmanuel.
What is basically is that you as a business person, have you invested in yourself so much? You cannot walk into any bank without a plan. So a good business plan is key. How are you planning your farm? Do you have off-takers who are going to buy? Because the challenges is not only with production, it's also with post-harvest loss. How are you even transporting your goods to the market? Are you finding an innovative way of marketing? Let's say TV3 here.
So Emmanuel, hold on. you are, at one breath, we are advising and encouraging young people to get into farming. Do we also have, you know, an adjoining program to tell them these things you're telling them, to teach them that, well, if you have 3 acres, this is how to plan your farm, this is how to assess capital, this is how to do. Do we have that?
Yes, we do.
Apart from just having government officials saying the youth must get into farming.
On a private level, sector level, we do. I have a farm myself. I do a 10 acres of vegetables just around Goma and Water.
I mean, use yourself an example.
As an example.
I mean, incubation, Cosmos. He came out of the Cosmos.
I came out of a Cosmos Innovation Centers program.
So
that Cosmos offered a full year incubation at MEST. So there are several of this program, and Cosmos currently have incubated 3 additional companies. This young one. So if corporate institutions are also going to tune around these lines instead of moving up, I'm not saying we should shift from entertainment-based content alone, but our CSR or CSR, corporate social responsibility program should channel a little bit into
you see, Emmanuel, I find it very funny and interesting at once that we have policies. Policies that emanated from the law, and government is supposed to implement them. It's their responsibility, of course, in partnership with you. Then now we want to shift it to CSR of private organizations.
Yes.
How does that work?
Because these companies do not work in isolation.
So let me tell you, for example, I am educated.
That's right.
And I want to start a farm. I get to the bank. The first thing they ask me is for papers and to get this and to get that and to get this and to get that. I could turn it around and do it. How about the peasant farmer who's never been to school but has about 12, 15 acres of land and wants to start something? What kind of facilities are available to this person?
No, you see,
we are the very people encouraging them to get into farming, and we are the very people who put blockades all around.
The question you should be asking is the peasant farmer skilled enough to get that investment?
Where skilled means what? He has the land,
knowledge.
He has the willingness.
No, not willingness. Land and willingness alone will not.
And
help.
he's been planting. Knowledge. He's been planting for 20 years.
20 years.
But
has his business
what has been the quality
of his produce?
Before you guys got into farming, he was farming to feed the both of us.
The Ghanaian
bring
farmer,
his produce to Malambata, to Nima, to Kwadaso, and everywhere else. So
Ghanaian,
he's not qualified.
The Ghanaian farmer out there is the most intelligent farmer I have ever seen across board. However, there still requires a lot of capacity building within them. We are looking at the sustainable development goals. I mean, food security is one of the main agenda on the US development goals. Now, we are no longer looking at farming to sustain ourselves. We want to farm to feed multitudes. We've got a lot of mouth to feed. Okay, so we need to educate our farmers, give them certain upskills that they can produce enough quality.
Do we have a plan for this?
Yes, we do.
What's the plan? What does the plan look like in the next 5 years? What does the plan look like?
It's within the Ghana's nutrition policy.
That's right.
And once you begin to look at it and government begins to involve the private sector, we should be able to feed more. We should be able to stop importing tomatoes, onion, and the likes.
Let's wrap up on this note. The issues of land, very critical. These days, I mean, forget about Galamsey. Let's talk about those who are giving up their farmlands to be used for. Exactly.
Yep.
Where are we going with that? Are we hitting a snag?
No, definitely we are not.
There's a lot of land available still with all these factors. There's a lot of idle lands. But the question is, we cannot continue the same tandem, doing the same things over and over again. So policies. It goes back to
policy, for example. What?
Policies for
that we should have high-rise buildings.
High-rise buildings instead of the basic, the flat buildings that we are doing. Because on an acre of land, if I tell you what you can develop as even using cabbage as an example, it will shock you. You are making well over 100% profit.
Right.
But the farmer doesn't know this knowledge. So therefore, he won't go into cabbage production.
Whose duty is it to give the knowledge to the farmer?
All of us.
All of us.
No. Whose duty? Who must lead the charge? The chamber? The Ministry of Agric?
The ministry?
The ministry, the chamber, and other allied institutions, especially you, the media. You, the media, have over-concentrated on politics than actually putting your spec.
We've given you 20 minutes to talk about that.
But you've given sports 40 minutes.
On prime time television.
Yeah, but you've given sports 40 minutes.
Take advantage of what we've given you.
Exactly, that's what we are doing. Now, government and other institutions like the NCA, we're talking about the telcos. The reason why we have a lot of youth in the city is because they can't access internet access in the village and stay there and farm because they want to do agribusiness. They want social media. They want to be on Facebook, WhatsApp, LinkedIn, Telegram, and the rest. But NCA telcos are not moving. Their resources are down there. We need them to partner us. Okay, the only way we can get the youth into agriculture is to make sure that internet connectivity is accessible in Krachi, in the deepest part of Paga, or wherever it is in the. Also, television viewing is critical to any development of a country, especially when youth have to leave the village and come and watch Champions League on Wednesdays and Tuesdays, and come back again. They come and watch Premiership on Saturdays.
It's a problem for you.
It's a problem for me.
So they can't have entertainment?
No, let's have this in the village.
I see. Interesting. Thank you very much, gentlemen. But finally, let me ask you. Is government paying lip service to Agric?
No.
A yes or no?
No.
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 Government is working on this. Government paying lip service to Agric?
No, but there is more room for improvement.
No, your answer is either yes or no, then we wrap up. Is government paying lip service to Agric? We say Agric is the engine of growth, blah, blah, blah.
No.
Ever since we got oil, we have suffered the Dutch disease, we seem to have left cocoa, coffee, and everything else. We are chasing oil. Is government paying lip service to Agric?
No, not at all.
Not at all. I thank you very much. Anthony Morrison is a farmer, president of the Ghana Chamber of Agric Business, and farmer Emmanuel Amprofi is also the Chief Operating Officer of the Trotro Tractor Limited. Let the conversation continue. But as far as I know, when you get to the banks to want to ask them for loans to start a farm, I know what it means. They will ask you for all manner of things, including drawing maps to your home.
Yes.
We'll take a break. We'll be right back.
NewDay, certainly whoever is in Christ is a new creation. I don't know what word you're going to work with today, but certainly brighten the corner where you are. But Johnny,
yes,
tilapia for us.
Tilapia. So we've been talking about free SHS and how it's going through a lot of challenges. And this is funds. Well, so this is a drip, right?
No, it's supposed to be air. So
this is oxygen.
Yeah.
Okay, this is oxygen. But why is his head inclined? Okay, it's critical. Free SHS, and that's Dr. Nanado right there. Nokujetua Blackwell comes into the intensive care unit. Says in 5 years' time, he will be history. He's pronouncing the free SHS dead. Interesting. I like Tilapia's animation.
I do, certainly do. The fact that it relates to something I do, that's cute.
Of course, man.
I see.
We're jumping out. And don't forget, this is it, the happening thing. Yes, I've been nominated again. They put me in the lion's den. But we will survive. We will survive.
That's
text
the people
star
celebrity award.
712 star 8 hash and vote. And my brother Owusu Waraya is there as well, and Christian Ejay Frimpong as well. So Chris has been nominated for Male Radio Presenter of the Year, and Owusu Waraya, Concept Waraya, is for Journalist of the Year. So vote for us. It's free, and multiple voting is allowed.
Okay. All right. So another Tuesday is gone by, and that means we are getting into Wednesday. That's a wonderful Tuesday. Have a great one and stay right here, because tomorrow we're back at 6 a.m. with all the goodies ahead of Christmas.
Yeah.
Have a good Tuesday.
It's a wrap.
See you.